Roll call.
Counselor Howard,
Here.
Counselor Locke. Here. Counselor Lorenz,
Here.
Mayor Becker,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Segola has been, or is absent and has been excused. And a quorum is declared.
Modifications to the agenda.
Yes, sir. The modifications to the agenda is remove K3. That was actually a duplication. And then we're going to add P1. Executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6424E for the purpose of discussion on the Valley 3 Theater. And adding P2, executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS sections 24-4024E for the purpose of the ARPA funds.
Get a motion to.
Make a motion to approve the modifications to the agenda.
Been moved and seconded to approve modifications to the agenda to remove K3 and add P1, executive session for Valley 3 Theater, P2, executive session for the ARPA funds. Is there any more discussion? Anita?
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Locke. Aye. Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker,
Aye.
motion carries for the modification to the agenda.
Approval of the consent agenda, minutes of regular meeting from last meeting, and review and approval of accounts payable.
Motion to approve.
Seconds.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for the minutes of regular meeting from the last one, and review and approval of accounts payable. Any discussion? Nita?
Counselor Howard,
Aye.
Counselor Locke. Aye. Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker,
Aye.
motion carries to approve the consent agenda.
Right. Proclamation, communication, and appointment. The first one is National Crime Victims' Rights Week, April 23rd through 29th. Proclamation, Crime Victims' Rights Week. Whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has legal standing and protection against protections that go along with it. Whereas crime victims' rights acts passed here in Colorado and at the federal level guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate and use their voice in the criminal justice process. Whereas victim service providers, advocates, law enforcement officers, attorneys, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice by enforcing these rights. Whereas the right to provide an impact statement ensures that victims' voices are considered in court during the sentencing and, when applicable, restitution process. Whereas including and elevating the voices of survivors makes certain that they are heard and seen and creates a path to forging and sustaining community trust. Whereas engaging survivors creates responses and services that are credible, meaningful, and centered on individual needs. Whereas survivors' lived experience can serve as a catalyst for implementing innovative programs, shifting existing programs in new directions, in changing policies or practices that prevent survivors from accessing services or pursuing justice. Whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to listening to crime survivors in every space where decisions are made that could impact them. And whereas City of Monte Vista is hereby dedicated to amplifying the voices of survivors and creating an environment where survivors have the confidence that they will be heard, believed, and supported. Now, therefore, I, Dale Beckers, Mayor of the City of Monte Vista, do hereby proclaim the week of April 23rd through the 29th, 2023 as Crime Victims' Rights Week, reaffirming this city's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year. And expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. So there you go. I like that. Is that why you're here?
Well, that is also why Lonnie Welch is here. She is the catalyst behind this and the driver of this. So,
Very good.
she maybe wanted to speak, but
If you have some,
I don't know how you all. Good evening. My name is Lonnie Welch. I'm the founder and executive director of Ribbons of Courage. Ribbons of Courage was founded on February 5th, 2023 as a nonprofit crime victim support organization located in the San Luis Valley. We are currently in the startup phase and are eager to start fulfilling our mission of supporting crime victims through their journey from victim to survivor and seeing our vision come to light of building safer communities through advocacy, education, resources, and healthy family-focused community activities. April 23rd through the 29th is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. This year's theme is Survivor Voices, Elevate, Engage, Affect Change. This theme shows perfectly what the victims and survivors of the San Luis Valley were able to accomplish in 2022.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Williams. I am the board president of Ribbons of Courage. Any person who is a victim of a criminal act shall have the right to be heard when relevant, informed, and present at all critical stages of the criminal justice process. These are the words of Section 16A of the Bill of Rights in the Colorado Constitution as passed on November 3rd, 1992. 33 states have passed similar constitutional amendments preserving the rights of the victims of crime. Since 1974, when Congress passed the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, the United States and individual states have taken great steps to ensure that victims are not forgotten and lost in the criminal process. From the Victims of Crime Act of 1984 to the Violence Against Women Act of 1994 and the Justice for All Act of 2004, we continue to move toward a better approach for the justice system to ensure justice is carried out. Just last year, the Colorado General Assembly passed essential updates to the Victim Rights Act to ensure all victims of crimes are protected by law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, and judges.
In 2021, victims and survivors of the San Luis Valley took their own stand for crime victims' rights. Through their elevated voices and community support, they were able to fight for effective change. Their voices were not only heard through the San Luis Valley, but in many other cities throughout the nation. On behalf of Ribbons of Courage, I would like to thank the City of Monte Vista for your part in the elevation of survivors' voices in 2022 and for showing your continued support for crime victims' rights. Thank you.
thank you.
So, excuse me, Lonnie, and I'm sorry, was it Brian or Ryan? Would you please sign in on that form? Thank you.
You ever realize how long your address is until you have to write it out in front of you?
And thank you, council. I'll just be very brief. My name is Ann Kelly and I'm your district attorney for the San Luis Valley. I met Lonnie Welch before I was appointed after researching what had been going on down here and seeing that she was an incredibly strong and powerful voice for change. She is an incredibly impressive woman. She was one of my motivations for doing what I'm doing now. The way that she was treated by the prior administration and really the trauma that this valley has suffered as a result of those of that time period. I'm still sort of working on cleaning up the effects of that, but Lonnie has been an incredible support for our office and an incredible support and voice for victims of crime in the valley. And so I very enthusiastically support her organization and thank you very much for proclaiming next week to be Victims' Rights Week. And I signed.
The whole address and everything.
DA's office.
Mr. Mayor and council, let me take a picture with Ronnie and Ryan.
That all the board members.
Of course. Wait, introduce your board members.
Changing right on the agenda.
We're doing this one.
We'll leave us out.
Both the council stand behind it, guys. Now, we'll get this.
Okay.
Have the strange sound.
Good. When you see all of us.
No. I'm staff support.
Next proclamation is National Clerks Week. Nita, are you gonna have something to add to this after? Before we?
No.
Proclamation, 54th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, April 30th through May 6th, 2023. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality, thank you. Should have my glasses and I don't, and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerks through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerks. Now, therefore, I, Dale Becker, Mayor of Monte Vista, do recognize the week of April 30th through May 6th, 2023 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Unita Vance, and Deputy Clerk Lorena Gallegos and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital service they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Dated April 20th, 2023. Right on. Come on.
Thank you very much.
Do a great job.
Right, we will move on to citizen comments and special presentations. Citizen comments, city council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at this meeting. Anybody? Can you take yours?
I'll let y'all vote this meeting.
Okay, scheduled appearances. In order to be included on this portion of the agenda, you have to follow the appropriate paperwork with the city clerk no later than noon on Monday prior to the meeting. So we have farmers market. Miss Chelsea, how are you? Very good, thank you.
Here, can you come back in again? Sorry, I wrote something out, so I wasn't forgetting from this time, so hold up. Sorry about that. Thank you for having me this evening and giving me this opportunity to briefly present about the Monte Vista Farmers Market. As you know, the mission of the farmers market is to connect with local producers, produce, art, and food for the benefit of individual customers and vendors, as well as for the greater good of the local economy and the local food system. We're open for 11 weeks every summer. This summer, with your approval, we'll be open on Fridays from July 7th, 2023 through September 15th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. As you know, Mr. Vance informed me that the electrical vehicle chargers will be installed this summer in the Facet Building parking lot, which rendered having the market there not feasible. I can't say enough for how appreciative I am that Mr. Vance, on behalf of the city, was so considerate about the market with the options he presented. We considered both Full and Whiter and Chapman Parks, and both have pros and cons. I also polled the community and talked to a few of our vendors about these options as well. Ultimately, although Full and Whiter Park has benefits like its close to downtown location, we decided that Chapman Park, if you'll permit our using it, is the better option for us, largely because of the parking benefits, especially for those produce vendors who utilize their vehicles as their primary booth space. Our thought right now, with some room for experimentation though, is to use the pavilion in the center of the park as the center of the market as well, and set up booths around that. Now, a little bit about the farmers market's contributions to Monte Vista. In 2022, the farmers market distributed $1,010 in SNAP and redeemed $968 in SNAP. That's $1,000 in local foods reaching the tables that most need access to healthy local options. And Double Up Food Bucks, we issued $730 and collected $684. Double Up can be used at any farmers market and at all other retail locations approved for the program as well. So that's $730 in fresh local produce reaching those same tables. If you don't remember my presentation last year, we redeemed SNAP cards for whatever amount the customer wants to use and issue vouchers for that amount. These vouchers can only be used on food products the same as a SNAP card could. Double Up Food Bucks is a grant-funded program through Nourish Colorado that issues these vouchers to SNAP customers. Oops. All right, I didn't break cues in my notes, so I didn't know what to do. So these are the SNAP coupons that we issue, and then these are the Double Up Food Bucks. Just give that up. SNAP customers can receive up to $20 in matching funds per week, matching what they get in SNAP vouchers, and these can only be used on fresh produce and beans. In Monte Vista City sales tax, we collected $805.30 in 2022. So we're far from your biggest contributor, but we're doing our part. This year is also our 10th anniversary for the market, so we're planning a few celebratory things as well. I'll likely be giving out these market bucks as prizes. I have a few rough ideas going on right now, and I'll take any suggestions if anybody has any ideas for how to celebrate the anniversary. That's most of what I wanted to convey. I hope council considers the market as much an essential part of Monte Vista in the summertime as I and many others do, and I hope you'll approve our use of Chapman Park for the 2023 season. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
The only question I might have is it's a huge park, so I'm sure there's plenty of room. I know there's a lot of Durban's really amped up the parks and recs. There's a lot of sporting events this summer. There's a lot of post events on Saturdays, so that won't affect you. Has there been any discussion about how you can cooperatively use it if, for example, there's a ball game and the farmer's market? And everybody just kind of scoot over a little bit and scoot that way, and y'all are all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that,
Electricity, I think we're good, because there's 3 or 4 vendors that use electricity, so as long as we can reach something about the school, we're good.
okay, and that's my only concern.
And need a motion to approve that?
Nope.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
Sounds like it'd be good to go get fresh produce at Chapman Park.
Yeah,
Good luck.
I'm looking forward to having this market opening up again.
Me too, I wish it was summer already.
Yeah, me too.
With it being at Chapman's Park, you need people to find more,
You have no
more,
idea.
more vendors.
Yeah. It's definitely some mistakes for that.
Kids coming on. you can update.
So
Kids
my
can put a
only
lot.
question as far as
Yeah.
that goes is, whether or not this is gonna be a permanent change for us. Cause if there's gonna be electric vehicle chargers in the Facet Building parking lot, I imagine that we'd either have to, if we do move back there. Next year and following years, we'd either have to let those vehicles in access the chargers, or would we just move? Permanently,
Yeah, Chelsea, it'll be more of a permanent move,
okay,
but we're glad that you guys like Chapman Park. I think I also offered, since our office is closed on Fridays, here our front parking lot, but we don't really have the electrical outside support that they need, and so.
also, we didn't think you'd wanna put in a porta potty, just kind of like plant it in the middle of your parking lot. So we open on Fridays.
I think it's gonna be perfect in Chapman. Like I said, as long as there's, as they just have an understanding, as we all have an understanding that if there's something else going on, which I don't think will happen very often, we just get along and we just fix it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay,
Like you said, it's a big park, there's plenty of space.
it's huge. So yeah, I think there's plenty of space for everything.
Well, I'm sure with Rob, he's got it all on the schedule as well, so it'll be. Not overlapped with anything for the pavilion, so.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chelsea.
Chelsea, Chelsea, did you sign in by chance? Please, thank you.
Thank you for doing the farmer's market again this year.
No problem.
That is no small project.
It's worth it.
We finally did an audience. I did too.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
You have to sign in.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Don't forget the seat code.
I did a time clock this morning, so I'm in.
This is citizen comment, or this is scheduled appearance.
Okay, so we had a really good, robust work session last week concerning our federal funds. And I appreciated the guidance you guys gave us, the input, kind of which way we should potentially go. And the one thing that we heard loud and clear was, you know, we need to be taking care of what we've got instead of bringing on new projects, like some of the ones that we had proposed. So DJ and Rob and I sat back down and kind of scrubbed these and re-looked at numbers and thinking about where we could allocate or leverage other dollars with some of this. And then I got it okayed with Anita. She's got to keep me in the lane. And so I just thought we'd walk through some of these. You know, the backup generators, those are for our pump houses. And Today is the anniversary of the fire in our community. And this is a needed backup support to make sure that our pumps can adequately function, especially when there's an emergency. The Sky High grant that we got the congressional funding for, it was a 75-25% match. So we got 75% of it through Congress, which was $800 and some thousand. And then we applied for a $200,000 grant from the Department of Local Affairs. They're going to meet me here tomorrow, and we're going to work out some of the other details on that so that they can properly tell the story of why this grant's important. And then the balance, and then we received a $10,000 grant from El Pomar. So the balance right now is $65,000. So I'd like to allocate that $65,000 here. We cannot start the project until we hear something from DOLA, because their funds work where you can't start until they say yes. And so we ought to hear, they'll be presenting this to them on May the 23rd. We kept it at the $200,000 mark because this was a little bit of a strategic move working with DOLA, because this falls in their tier 1 funding, which goes up to $200,000. And so the staff is making the pitch for us. So I'll be looking at additional grant funding from some of the other private foundations. And if we go above that $65,000, we can use that for some of the landscaping. We're going to want some trees back there with the RV area and picnic tables and that sort of thing. So let's see, the plotter, we're now saying we will figure that out in general funds. That was for a full year's lease and the first $2,000 of supplies that they told us we needed. So that's not ARPA funds. The parks, this $50,000 will be to boost up the electrical needs that we have here at Chapman Park, and as well as on the 200 to 300 block of Adams Street. Because if we continue having these sorts of festivals and such, we're going to want to have that 200 block of Adams to be able to have power as well. This amount is a little high than what Rob was suggesting. And so any balance that we have after we have to have an electrician will go towards this park specifically. The City Hall project, we did boost up the dollar amount. But that, and stop snickering, Stephanie. I know. We boosted this up, and DJ's been working really hard on our request for proposal. And so again, this will include the stucco around the whole building. It will include windows, new windows on the police side. We have that little shed out to the east of City Hall that will be stuccoed so it matches, and those doors will be replaced so it has a nice clean look. We've put in a little bit of concrete work for the police side as well, for when they enter, so they have a concrete landing instead of walking in the dirt. It is for improved lighting, both on the building and in the parking lot. And potentially a new sign for City Hall. So we're taking a stab at the 350. We're doing our RFP. If it comes back higher than that, we'll come back and say, can we spend more are you guys happy with these bids? Or we will say, look at it and where we will cut back and change that. The stucco also changes the facade a little bit. And I think you all have seen in the past, the renderings of the building that Spencer Architects drew up. It gives a little bit of depth, I guess I'll say, along the west wall, exterior wall, as well as a little beef up in the front entryway. So it just won't look so institutionalized and so flat. So we're excited about that. The phone system, we'll stick that in the budget for 2024. The skidster, we did get 3 bids back on it. All of them had a little bit of different options. And so Rob was getting back in touch with the 3 vendors and saying, okay, to match apples with apples, we need you to answer these questions. Long and short, though, it's about $85,000 with the utensils or the attachments to go on it. We are suggesting $40,000 come out of ARPA. The other half of that then will be, the other half will be split between the 1 cent fund from Sky High. So the dollars that Stephanie gets, and then the other half will come out of the Public Works Capital Improvement Fund, where they buy equipment. AEDs will take out of each of the departments that requested those in next year's budget. We're asking for $10,000 potentially for any of the rural economy recreation program, primarily for some of the signage. And I'm sorry, I think I'm getting the allergy thing too. And so we need to have a little bit of money set aside for some of those improvements. The RERC, we had a meeting just this last week. There were 5 goals the community wanted us to address. We're working on those 5 goals and what our action plans would be with it. And then we'll start having community meetings and getting community folks involved with whichever of the groups that they're interested in. And I hope if you guys are interested that you'll join in on those conversations. The tennis courts, they are a mess. Went over and took a look yesterday, and Durbin is taking this on to try and get us some decent bids. We're thinking 50,000 will at least do a decent recovering. We got to get a bid out on it first. There's some concern that can we just resurface and make it all good again and cover up those cracks? Or are we going to have to mill it all the way down and then do a full rebuild? But we do have quite an active group of ladies that come and play regularly over there. And I think it was 2 years ago, they were before council, and you guys agreed we put something in the budget to begin to help address. And former director of recreation was supposed to be looking at grants. We'll also be looking at grants, but we're going to need some money to get started on that process. Public Works, I'm sorry, Rob isn't here tonight. He took, I gave him the day off. So this Dennis Street utilities. So what he's decided, he and I've decided, is that, you know, the commitment with the 1 cent funds that were to help pay for the street improvements was to get the unpaved streets addressed first. And that was primarily right over here off of Batterson, Dennis, and is it Dunham? So last year we didn't do anything. We did something 2 years ago. last year he didn't do anything so that money could be doubled with all this inflation, chain supply and whatever. The costs have gone up dramatically. And so he wants to pave from South Broadway down Fourth. So from the fire station going east, down to Batterson, go up Batterson, which is still unpaved. And in that, it would have new sewer storm drainage. The estimate came back so humongous that he hadn't done the storm drains yet on Dennis Street. So he wanted to exclude that. So we agreed, let's take that out. And now with looking at these funds, so that's a priority. We're gonna throw that back in and see what you guys think. We're hoping that Wildan really will come through with the grants that they're talking about for the water meters. We're still gonna have to have some sort of a match. We did lower that from 500,000 to 300,000. The air conditioning for kids connection, and then the balance, almost $50,000, then to look at replacing some of the playground equipment then again in our parks. So we probably start with Chapman because this is their most popular park. And then we would likely look at it's called Marsh Park, the one there by Sonic. It has very limited playground equipment for the children in the neighborhood. So we go there and we'll see whatever we can leverage and get some grants or something. But it's been fun kind of looking at the website and seeing what some of the new playground equipment could be. And so we've talked about possibly having a little contest. You know, we can pick out 3 sets and throw it out there and ask the kids what they think and let them pick. Go from there. So that would take up our full $894,487. You guys like it?
Mhm.
Don't like
I
it? Okay, thank you. Better, Jason?
Yeah, I'm good.
Dale?
Trusting you guys because it wasn't.
Well, and these are things that will better our communities and help give us a little facelift and see that we're investing back into the community. No, Martha, Councilwoman Lott came to me this afternoon. She threw out a different idea than how these funds would be spent. And so she asked how she could do an executive session because some of the things that she would be discussing have some sensitivity to the issues that the people involved. We can't divulge that information to the public as yet. So
I would like to make a motion that we move this discussion to an executive session so that we can talk about some of those things, but I need to read, or you need to read, one of us needs to read the.
We'll do that.
Well,
at the
you
end of the
do
meeting.
that
We're
after
going
you get into
executive session.
the executive session format.
I'm sorry.
You would do that in the executive session format because there's a protocol of how you do
Okay.
that.
and Nita, the city clerk, would read it for you.
Okay.
All right. And that concludes my discussion right now on ARPA funds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gigi. So we will move to a public meeting for minor subdivision for Shank property and minor subdivision for Trujillo property.
Okay, so we have both the subdivisions. They went through the process. They went through the public hearings. They went through all the public process through planning and zoning. There was some back and forth on the Donald Shanks property because of different issues. All that got done, got completed, And so we should have a good split already. Mary, you've already seen the plat. So there's planning and zoning commission recommended approval of both of those properties, which you guys have the memo for approval. So are there any questions about it?
When I look at the plat for the Trujillo property, that's subdividing 130 feet into an 80 and a 50,
Yes,
and 50 meets code.
yes, it is at 7,000 square feet, which is the minimum. 50 by 150, it makes it 7,500, which is the minimum. And it also meets the minimum for the corner. And it is currently the 2 lots that she's taking, or that they plan on building a brand new home on. So it takes 2 vacant lots and it puts a brand new stick-built home. Should do good things for property values. It's definitely a good plan for what they have looking forward. And we haven't seen some new construction on Lyle in a long time. So I like the idea that they're doing. So if there's no questions, then I would need a motion to approve both of those subdivisions.
Make a motion to approve both subdivision for the Shank property and the Trujillo property.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minor subdivision for the Shank property and minor subdivision for Trujillo property. Is there any discussion? Anita?
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the Shape minor subdivision and the Trujillo minor subdivision.
Okay, we'll go to resolutions. Resolution 2023-05, budget amendment. For 1 cent fund.
I have a resolution approving the amended budget and appropriations of funds for the calendar year 2023 to authorize expenditures for the 1 cent sales tax fund. Whereas the City Council of the City of Monte Vista recognizes the importance of providing budget amendments to accurately state the unaudited financial position of the city year to date, and whereas these budget amendments provide assistance in the efficient administration of the city's 1 cent sales tax fund. And whereas the City Council, by passage of this resolution, acknowledges the city is providing adequate financial controls regarding expenditures. And whereas the 1 cent sales tax fund remaining balance at December 31, 2022 of $1,030,565 is available for purposes designated, and the city will increase budgeted expenditures by $901,451,451 and reserve the remaining balance of $129,114 as the 1 cent advisory committee recommended. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, Colorado, that the 2023 1 cent sales tax fund budget and appropriations are hereby amended as follows. So we take the fund balance at the end of 2022 and allocate it according to the percentages that were passed in the 1 cent ballot. So that will put in it of that fund balance, $218,660 to the police department, $133,304 to the 1 cent streets, and $278,601 to Sky High. Then we will adjust the expenditures from the current budget for police of $158,398. Add $185,861 to make a total for their appropriated budget of $344,259. Take the existing budget of $221,757, add $506,639 to make the amended budget for streets at $728,396. For the Sky High portion will go from 253,437. Add 208,951 to make a total of 462,388. And then the 1 cent advisory committee recommended that a portion of that fund balance be held in reserve for unexpected expenditures. So they recommended 15% for the police, which would be 32,799. 5% for streets, which would reserve 26,655. And 25% for Sky High at 69,650. Well, I would ask that you approve this resolution.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023-5, amending the budget for the 1 cent fund.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2023-5. Amended budget appropriation of funds for the calendar year 2023 to authorize expenditures for the 1 cent sales tax fund. Is there any more discussion? Unita?
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve resolution 2023-05, budget amendment for the 1 cent tax fund.
We will move on to ordinances. Ordinance number 918, amending section 1420. General penalty for violations and sections 2590 violations penalty of the Monte Vista Municipal Code. Who's presenting that one?
I'll be glad to, Your Honor. I'm so used to skiing. So this particular ordinance really brings the jurisdictional limits of the municipal court up to the statutory limits that most municipalities have it at. We created the municipal court of record back in 2009, but the jurisdictional limits were never equated with the statute. So this brings the jurisdictional limits of the court to a fine of $2,650 and possible incarceration all the way up to a year. We never see those, of course, in municipal court, even at the lower levels that we've had before. But those are the jurisdictional limits. So, and there can be situations in the nuisance code and zoning code where those might become a factor. So that's what we've provided in this particular ordinance. And I talked to Nita a little bit about this too, and that's what we would submit to the council at this point.
So council, the current is 90 days in jail and up to $1,000 fine.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 918, amending section 1-4-20 and section 2-5-90. Violation penalty of the Monte Vista Municipal Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 918, amending section 1420. And section 2590, violation penalty of the Monte Vista Municipal Code. Is there any discussion? Unita?
Counselor Howard,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve ordinance. Excuse me, ordinance 918, amending section 1-4-20 and section 2-5-90 for general penalty of violation for the Monte Vista Municipal Code.
Okay, we'll move on to ordinance number 919. An ordinance of the city of Monte Vista repealing and reenacting Article 14 building regulations.
So a little bit of background on this one, for you guys. Colorado passed a statute that says you have to adopt either the 2015, 2018, or 2021 energy codes by July 1, or you will automatically be adopting the 2021 energy code. Anytime after July 1st of this year that you were to adopt a change into any building code, you must then adopt the 2021 or later energy code. So 2021 at this point, 2024 will be, they're coming up very shortly. And that is not a plan that we can do. So there's been a cohort that we've been working with for the last few months. All 6 counties, almost every municipality minus South Fork, has participated in this cohort. They have developed so that we will have mostly a standard code. There are a few exceptions where Alamosa has a tiny home ordinance, and we are not at this point wanting to enact a tiny home ordinance. So there's a small minor things between 1 or 2 municipalities. For the most part, when we go to this new building code, it would be everybody in the entire San Luis Valley at the same building, mechanical, electrical, every code will be the same. The only difference is going to be the International Property Maintenance Code, and that one Rio Grande County is not enacting because their building inspector does not believe it is enforceable at the county level. It has too much detail. He wouldn't be able to enforce it, so he doesn't want to bring it in. But Alamosa and other municipalities do currently use that code. So all the amendments except for the INTC are the agreed upon amendments throughout the entire San Luis Valley. Now, to adopt a code by ordinance, I'm sure they have to do the entire thing. So unless there's questions right now, I'm gonna start reading the next like 9 pages.
I don't think we can. I think we can pass by title.
Not for adoption of a code by or a code by
Reference.
reference. By statute, I have to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't do it by reference.
I tried hard not to.
And just so council is aware, this is the introduction of this ordinance. There will be a public hearing for this ordinance on the May 18th council meeting.
And then we can work on the second reading and several publications. It's a lot more complicated because we're doing it by reference. So ordinance 919, an ordinance of the city of Monte Vista repealing and reenacting Article 14 building regulations. Whereas the city of Monte Vista wishes to repeal and reenact chapter 14 of the city of Monte Vista Municipal Code in its entirety, and whereas the city of Monte Vista wishes to adopt it by reference the International Building Code 2018 edition, the International Residential Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings 2018 edition, International Mechanical Code 2018 edition, the International Energy Code 2018 edition, the International Existing Building Code 2018 edition, the International Property Code 2018 edition, all published by the International Code Council Incorporated, with specified amendments thereto. Whereas the city wishes to enact phased implementation of the International Energy Code, the 2018 edition, to establish policy set forth by those authorized enforcement of the International Energy Code 2018 edition. Now therefore be it ordained the city council of Monte Vista that effective 30 June 2023, chapter 14 of the Monte Vista Municipal Code is repealed in its entirety. A new chapter 14 of the City of Monte Vista Municipal Code, providing in its entirety the following. Chapter 14, Building Regulations, Article 1, Building Code. Codes approved, the City of Monte Vista adopts by reference the following codes. International Building Code 2018 edition, including as published by the International Code Council, 500 New Jersey Avenue Northwest, 6th floor, Washington, D.C., 2001, except as amended in section 14.2-30. International Residential Code 2018 edition is published by the International Code Council. Same address, except as amended in section 14-3-30. International Mechanical Code 2018 edition as published by the same address, same people, except as amended in 14-4-30. International Energy Conservation Code 2018 edition as published by International Code Council, same address, except as amended in 14-5-30. International Building Code, Existing Building Code 2018 edition as published by the International Code Council, same address, except as amended in 14-6-30. International Property Maintenance Code 2018 edition is published by the International Code Council, same address, except as amended in 14-7-30. And then we need to strike 7. That doesn't exist anymore. That was the big, my apologies. 14.120 application. The chapter in its entirety shall apply to the building and construction project within corporate limits of the city in which the city has jurisdiction and authority to regulate. 14.130 violation and penalty. The following penalties herewith set forth in full shall apply to this chapter unless otherwise provided elsewhere in this chapter. It is unlawful for any person to violate any provisions of these codes adopted in this chapter. Every person convicted of a violation of any provision adopted in this chapter shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $1,000 or imprisonment not to exceed 90 days. Or both such fine and imprisonment. Article 2, International Building Code adoption. The International Building Code 2018 edition is published by the International Building Code at the New Jersey address. Chapters 1 through 35 inclusive. The IBC is hereby adopted by reference as the City of Monte Vista Building Code and as it is fully set out in the article with the additions, deletions, insertions, and changes as set forth in this article. No building shall be hereafter constructed, erected, enlarged, altered, or moved into the City of Monte Vista unless the same shall as to the design, construction, quality materials, workmanship performed with the IBC as adopted in the copy on file. A digital copy of International Code is provided by the International Code Council and is available at their website. Amendments. The following sections of the adopted code are hereby revised as following. Sections 101A, 101.1 title is amended to insert City of Monte Vista where indicated. Yes. Section 105A, 105.2 work exempt from permit, building 1 is hereby amended to read as follows: 1-story detached accessory structures used as tool and storage sheds, playhouses, and similar uses provided that the floor area is not greater than 200 square feet. Section 105 alpha 105.2 work exempt from permit building is hereby amended by adding the following: 14 agricultural buildings as defined by this code and are approved by the code official. The parking of private or commercial vehicles is strictly prohibited within the structure and shall use such use shall immediately revoke the agricultural exempt building status and require a formal building permit with associated fees. Section 202 definitions is hereby amended by adding the following definition: agricultural building, a building or structure constructed for the sole purpose of housing farm implements, hay, grain, poultry, livestock, or other horticultural products. This structure shall not be a place of human habitation or a place of employment where agricultural products are processed, treated, or packaged, nor shall it be a place used by the public. Article 3, International Residential Code adoption. The International Residential Code 2018 edition as published by the International Code Council with the address in New Jersey or DC. Chapter 1 through 10 and 12 through 23 inclusive, IRC, is hereby adopted by reference as the City of Monte Vista Building Code as it is fully set out in this article, with additions, deletions, insertions, and changes as set forth in this article. No building shall be hereafter constructed, erected, enlarged, altered, or moved into the City of Monte Vista unless the same shall as to the design, construction, quality materials, workmanship conform to the IRC as adopted and amended. Copy on file, digital copy of the International Residential Code is provided by the International Code Council and is available at their website. Amendments. Following sections have been adopted of the adopted code are hereby revised as follows. Section R 101, 101.1 title is amended to insert the City of Monte Vista where indicated. Section R 105, R 105.2 work exemption from permit building. 5 is hereby deleted in its entirety and is replaced with the following: sidewalks and driveways not more than 30 inches above adjacent grade and not over any basement or story below are not part of an accessible route. Section R 105, R 105.2 work exempt from permit building is hereby amended by adding the following: agricultural buildings as defined by the code and are approved by the code official. The parking of private or commercial vehicles is strictly prohibited within this structure, and such shall immediately revoke the agriculture exempt building status and require a formal building permit with the associated fees. Section R 202 definitions is hereby amended by adding the following definition: agricultural building, a building or structure constructed for the sole purpose of housing farm implements, hay, grain, poultry, livestock, or other horticultural products. The structure shall not be a place of human habitation or place of employment where agricultural products are processed, treated, packaged, nor shall it be a place used by the public. Table R 301 is amended to insert the following: and attached here to as Exhibit A, which you can see in the back. Section R 313.313.2, 1 and 2 family dwelling automatic fire sprinkler systems and its subsections are hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 11, energy efficiency is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 24, fuel gas is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 25, plumbing administration is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 26, plumbing and requirements is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 27, plumbing fixtures is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 28, water heaters is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 29, water supply and distribution is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 30, sanitary drainage is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 31, vents is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 32, traps is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 33, storm drainage is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 34, general requirements is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 35, electrical definitions is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 36, services is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 37, branch circuits and feeder requirements is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 38, wiring methods is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 39, power and line distribution is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 40, devices and luminaries is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 41, appliance installation is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 42, swimming pools is hereby deleted in its entirety. Chapter 43, class 2 remote control signaling and power limited circuits is hereby deleted in its entirety. Article 4, International County Code. The International County Code 2018 is published by the International Code Council with the New Jersey Avenue address. So chapter 1 through 15 inclusive, INC is hereby adopted by reference as a city of Monte Vista building code and is as is fully set out in its article with additions and deletions, insertions and changes as set forth in its article. No building shall be constructed hereafter, erected, enlarged, altered, or moved into the city of Monte Vista unless the same shall, as to the design, construction, quality materials, workmanship conform to the INC as adopted and amended. Copy on file. A digital copy of the International Mechanical Code is provided by the International Code Council and is available on the website. Amendments, the following sections are adoption of the code hereby revised as follows. Section 101A, 101.1 titles amended to insert City of Monte Vista where indicated. Article 5, International Code, Energy Conservation Code. The International Energy Conservation Code 2018 edition, as published by the International Code Council with the New Jersey address, chapters 1, C1 through C6, and R1 through R6 inclusive. IECC is hereby adopted by reference as the City of Monte Vista Building Code, as is fully set out in the article with the additions, deletions, insertions, and changes as set forth in this article. No building shall be hereafter constructed, erected, enlarged, altered, or moved into the City of Monte Vista unless the same as to the design, construction, quality materials, and work should conform to the IECC as adopted and amended. The enforcement of the International Energy Conservation Code shall be in accordance with the phase implementation plan policy. File and copy. The digital copy of the International Energy Conservation Code provided in the International Code Council is available at their website. Amendments. The following sections of the adopted code are hereby amended or revised as follows. Section C101, C101.1 title is amended to insert the City of Monte Vista where indicated. Section C103, C103.2, information on construction documents is hereby amended by adding the following. Energy path compliance. Section C103, C103.2, information on construction documents is hereby amended by adding the following additional efficiency package. Section C402, C402.1.2. Here, equipment buildings is hereby amended by adding the following. Agricultural buildings that meet the definition and requirements established in the International Building Code 2018 edition as amended. Section R101, section R101.1 title is amended to insert City of Monte Vista where indicated. Section R103, 103.2 information on construction documents hereby amended by adding the following. Energy compliance path. Section R402, R402.1 general exemptions is hereby amended by adding the following. Agricultural buildings that meet the definition requirements and
We're not gonna
Oh,
push it
really?
through the rest of it. We'll let you start there.
You told me to read it all. Well, yay, so, okay, we amended all of it, and like I said, it's all the same amendments as everywhere else except for the IMPC. And that, the only reason we amended that is one that we had before was a homegrown dangerous building code, and this one's a little more formal, a little more clear. So that's the only one that the county is not adopting. The agricultural buildings was a conversation back and forth. Some people are adding it and some people are not. Due to the fact that we do have some zones that are rural, there could be the argument that we could have agricultural buildings, so that's why I left that in. Whereas some other municipalities deleted that that language out. So, no questions? Okay.
What happens if I park a private or commercial vehicle in an agricultural building?
We have to get a permit.
You just had to go there.
Thank you.
It was
almost done. You're good.
You did very well.
It was 9 pages, all within 9 words. Hey, I try not to be the one.
Have you ever thought about taking up auctioneering? Because you're pretty clear and good at that.
Nope. Those guys at the state capitol, that big road bills.
Just
Oh, my goodness. It's incredible. You should get on the spot and they have to read every word in the bill. Oh, my goodness, it was crazy to watch that.
What do you mean?
He'll read like a 1-page bill in like 2 minutes.
We're gonna make.
We're gonna make a
motion
motion.
in effect of two.
Don't you sit down?
In the end of it.
On the ordinance? So you don't have to make a motion on this ordinance, it's just an introduction.
I think you have the introduction. Well, it's an introduction as far as the adoption of code by reference is concerned, but you're also dealing with passage of an ordinance on first reading according to our charter. So I think you do need to make a motion to approve it on first reading.
And then we will amend the.
Did you record that? So you don't have to do second reading?
The second reading, I can just do title.
Well,
Right? We're gonna stick that there.
you've already introduced it, so it, you don't have to sit in there and read the whole thing as far as that goes. I mean, it'll be before the council. You have to publish. I'll explain that in a few minutes, but.
So we're good. We don't need to.
You do.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 919, repealing and reenacting Article 14 building regulations.
Second,
Been moved and seconded to approve it. Ordinance 919, repealing and reacting Article 14 building regulations. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah.
Nita?
Counselor Howard,
aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carried to approve ordinance 919. Ordinance repealing and reenacting Article 14 building regulations on first reading.
All right, contracts, agreements and leases. Awarded police department gym to.
Well, we got it.
Hey, Mayor, Council, good to see you guys. It's been a minute since I've seen you guys. I was on vacation at our last meeting. So
That's you.
this is the introduction. Introduction. So 9 words. Please approve my new gym equipment for PD. That's 9. Take care. No,
Motion to approve.
I did put a memo in there, for you guys to read. So the equipment that we've had at the gym was, I mean, I described it as prison gym equipment. Some of this stuff was old from like 80s and it was old equipment from like high school. A lot of it was actually dangerous, and that was one of the reasons I'm like, no more, we can't use it because things would stick and then the weights and stuff. So we've got the money and stuff in there. Plus, we've got like 6,000 we've had in donations from community members and stuff like that. So, and then we have another account that Anita had found. It's an old account that's been sitting there. It's got like almost 2,000 and so we're gonna use that. All said and done, we had seven bids for which I was kind of shocked. We put it out for RFP and got 7 bids. So Durbin, EG and I went through it, and this one actually ended up being the cheapest. And I've been in a gym for a lot of years, and it's absolutely some of the best equipment that we possibly could get. I was shocked that it was actually that reasonable. However, it's a company out of Texas that also gets a 10% discount for law enforcement, so that was huge, so. I am asking council to approve the award to Pro Maximum Strength and Conditioning in the bid amount of $27,089.40 for updated and operable gym equipment, and allow the city managers to sign.
Motion approved.
So moved. Second. Been moved and seconded to approve. The award the police department gym to Comaxa and have city manager sign the contract. Is there any more discussion? Unita?
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to award Pro Maxima for the PD gym.
Anita?
They're gonna be happy to look at my pictures.
I didn't have pictures.
You know, it's been a while since I gave you a report, so hopefully I don't go too long. If I do, just start snapping your fingers or something.
Give DJ time to read that.
I'm gonna give you a report through March. We've completed 25% of the 2023 fiscal year. The cash balance in the main checking account of the general fund portion is $3,110,000. The water fund has $466,000. The sewer fund has $551,000. The general fund had revenue in excess of expenditures of $46,000. The water and sewer fund both had deficits, water fund of $2,200 and the sewer fund of $36,000. The total expenditures percent of the approved budget amounts, general fund comes in at 23%, water fund 17%, and sewer fund 14%.
The reason that the water and sewer fund is lagging so far behind, and a quarter way through, we're only.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Why is the income
The income
lagging so far behind?
for the water and the sewer and in the deficit,
Yeah.
the sewer fund later when I talk about the expenditures, had a big expenditure of $80,000 to pay the fine for the SCP. So that was a big portion of some of the expenses, and so it should work itself out over the month. Water fund.
Water fund knows that, I mean, we budgeted in a deficit.
Yeah, he budgets the deficit, and so it's always, you know, if he comes in not in a deficit, it's a treat. Let's see. The only notes I made for expenditures in the water fund are increases to wages. He had a couple of claims that he had to pay Excel for cutting lines. And they had to be repaired. He had some higher expenses for lab testing for water. And then this year now we have vehicle lease expenses, but you know that is in the budget, but when you're comparing it.
The other question I had was, so both of them are lagging behind with 25% through the year. The sewer fund is only at 12% of
The-
income?
Of the
Yeah, income's only at 12%.
the sewer fund?
Yep.
Shouldn't be.
So
Because
revenue of the sewer fund is at 12% of the approved budget.
well, because of the budgeted USDA loan.
Oh.
The
so
$1 million
it's gonna hit
is in
later.
there.
Okay.
And that's not been spent yet or anything. So it makes it look like they're really below budget,
Okay,
which they are.
they
We
are below
but-
budget, but it's just a schedule, it's a timing
Mhm.
issue.
Mhm. Mhm. So, and then when we look at the comparative, between this year and last year for the accounts receivable, the general fund has a decrease of an overall amount of about 38,000. And the most notable differences were in miscellaneous accounts receivable, which includes Sky High events, hangar leases, and Kids Connection. And then tax receivable, which includes sales tax, highway users tax, and the franchise tax. So some of that decrease could just be a difference in timing differences. I estimate revenue on a monthly basis for taxes. Maybe my estimation is not. I tend to be more conservative this year when I'm estimating the taxes than I did last year, so that could be some of the differences. The water fund overall decrease of 20,000, that was related to, and I'm going to say this probably a lot, but it affected a lot of things. The reconciliation that I did of the tax certification account, it redistributed the amounts receivable between the general and the water and the sewer more accurately than what it had been recorded before the reconciliation. And so that affects the sewer fund increase because it redistributed it from water to sewer where it was actually incurred. The accounts payable comparison. General fund had an overall increase of 88,000 compared to last year. Some of that, the Valley Theater projector repair was 19,000, but that will be offset by the claim that we received the revenue. The Sky High business plan had an additional expense of 24,000, but that was for the Ready Grant payment of the business, the start of the business plan, and that will be reimbursed from the Ready Grant. Just a little quirk, the 2022 AP balance had some checks dated in March, but the invoices were April, so it made it look like the April invoices weren't included in the March numbers, so it made it look like the payables were really small. The water fund decrease for payables was just minimal $4,900. He had a capital purchase outlay last year for a compactor. And the sewer fund overall increase for payables was basically related to the accrued compensation absences for vacation for the liability. Comparing revenue, general fund this year to last year is pretty close. There's a difference of $7,000 that is less, and in researching, license and permit revenue was down. The intergovernmental revenue, grant revenue, the highway user tax, auto license fees, and the cigarette tax was less than what it was last year. And court costs are also less. The water fund had an overall increase of $3,600 related basically to the earnings we're receiving on the investments. This year, through the first 3 months, we've received $4,800 in interest. Last year, we had $200. The sewer fund overall increase of $83,000 for revenue is mainly related two service charges, this year for, utility billing. We billed out 295,000 versus 213,000 in the revenue. So, and now I've added some new taxes and some new charts, some new slides. Gigi's talked about wanting to compare our sales tax revenue so we can kind of keep an eye on whether it's going to start decreasing or not. So hopefully this will work itself out and we'll be able to see some of the comparisons. So I've added some new charts so we can compare property tax, sales tax, and then the total of the tax revenue. The general property taxes has pretty much followed the same pattern over the months and the years. I put a 3 years worth of numbers. There's a minimal increase in revenue received so far this year of only about 7,000 over last year and about $10,000 over 2021. The Rio Grande County sales tax revenue, the comparison looks a little quirky. And like I said, a lot of that is because I estimate revenue in the current month because we don't actually get the reports and the payment for 2 months after the current month. So instead of delaying the reports that I give to you by 2 months or 3 months, I try to estimate what I think the revenue might be. And then I correct it when I get the actual numbers. So some of these differences, the wide difference like between this year and last year could be just the manner that I estimated the taxes. It could be the timing differences. So I'm curious. I really do want to watch it and see how it works its pattern out. The same with the city sales tax revenue. That's estimated in the current month, and then I correct it when I receive the numbers in 2 months later. And like I said before, I've been more conservative in my estimates because I would rather increase the revenue that we receive and not decrease it. So then the total tax revenue comparison, this includes more than just the sales and property tax. It also includes specific ownership, franchise, and occupational tax. So the increase in this year in the total tax revenue shows a slight increase in property, county sales, and franchise tax. So back to the normal comparisons for expenditures. This year, the overall expenditures in the general fund have increased. In part, there's a number of different things that are contributing to that increase. Timing of payment of expenses for annual dues, like for urged and the Council of Governments. We had increase in wages and benefits, and we'll be seeing that throughout the year when we're comparing. We had an increase in IT for annual software fees and professional services, and then they had a big expense to upgrade their storage area network. And we had an increase in dispatch services. We have vehicle leases now. We're maintaining the Valley 3 Theater, so that contributes to the big differences. And then the planning assessment that we did for Sky High, which will be reimbursed. Water fund increases, we talked about that, about wages, the Excel claims, lab testing, and sewer fund, the wages, and then the payment of the SED fund. General fund revenues, average, when you're comparing the monthly comparisons, the average is 354,000. We had a large increase in revenue in February, and that was from property tax revenue. And that typically goes up and down just depending on when people pay their property taxes. General fund expenditures, They average about 338,000 per month. The large increase in March, again, is related to the SCP fine payment, the Valley expenses for operation of Valley Free Theater, and planning assessment with rising. The general fund budget comparison shows we are under budget by about 2%. Some departments are over, some are under, but overall, we're pretty much in line with the budget. We finished the month with a current ratio of 3.26, and we have 8.79 months of operating expenses in the unassigned fund balance. Any other questions?
Report.
So if you want to approve the presentation. And then
Make motion to approve the presentation of first quarter finances.
Second.
thank you. And then I briefly wanted to go over
Still got to vote.
Yep.
the what?
We still have to vote. We made a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Then move in second to approve the first quarter financial report. Is there any discussion? Nita?
Counselor Howard,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the first quarter financials.
Now talk to us about.
I know, now I wanted to go over just briefly just to update you on the disposable bag fee that everybody's had to pay. I received, I don't know, a couple of weeks or so more, a couple of calls, one from Safeway and one from Family Dollar wanting to know how we wanted them to remit their fees. And I said,
All bills.
just give me your money. No.
Times.
So we came up, we did, I sent them just like a generic form. I said if they needed a form, they were more than happy to fill this out. If they could make a notation, if they were submitting the fees to us, just what they were for. So we received the first payment from Safeway for $2,113. And so far I haven't gotten Family Dollar, but I will expect it. I mean, if they called and said, so I'm going to track the revenue separately. So we can, as Gigi says, explore recommendations where the city may get the biggest bang for the buck.
Is that for 3 months?
The first quarter, yes, first quarter. And then it is stipulated, we were looking it up when we were talking about this, that the money can be used for reuse, redo, or recycle. So it's just to inform you that we are getting some payments and we will, think about what we might be able to do as the city to use that money for the community or something.
Yeah, they don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to staff proposals, reports, and action.
Thank you.
Looks like Durbin's up.
Do you mind in 9 words?
Yeah.
You got to read left.
I'm counting.
So we'll start off with the adult basketball leagues tonight. They're going great. Our women's league's over. They just finished up with their tournament. Each one played each other twice, with 5 teams in the league, played each other twice. And then we had a single elimination tournament that ended yesterday. Thank goodness. The men's league still has 2 weeks left in it, and they'll do the same thing. They play each other twice in the league, and then they'll have a single elimination tournament as well. So far, we haven't had to call chief yet for anything out there, and that's a good thing. Our youth soccer program has just really overexceeded in numbers. We probably have 120 kids in that program. And if you go by Chapman Park this weekend, we host this weekend, so Chapman Park will be packed with kids out there playing soccer. If when you came in, if you notice some little kids getting blown around, that's our little first and second graders that were out there practicing today. And then the kids love it though. They don't want to get parents stay in the car. The kids love it, want to stay out there. And I'm telling the coaches, y'all crazy. I'd be inside trying to practice. But that program's going great. Like I said, we're hosting this weekend, so all the different recreation departments in the area are bringing their teams down. And we do have the most teams in the league, which is nice. We did have a camp this year where Adams State women's team came down and gave the kids just a demonstration, as well as worked with them on some skills out at the park out of Chapman, which was really nice for them. They enjoyed it. And also 3 of the Adams State women's players are coaches for our teams, which makes it nice too. And they get to just show their passion and how passionate they are for the game, and hopefully get more kids involved, and kids will take it further. For our registrations that we're currently doing, we're doing baseball registration right now, and that'll go through May 8th, and we expect that to really explode, as well as we're doing the mini cheerleaders. The youth cheerleaders are going to be starting up again. May 1st starts their registration. And the mini cheerleaders are going to be doing the concessions this weekend for Chapman. We expect over 1,000 people at Chapman this weekend, as far as parents and kids that are going to be there. So we even ordered porta potties too. Now expecting that number, because we went to SWAT last weekend and the restrooms were backed up. I even went to the gas station. The gas station was out the door. Now I'm like, man. So we got porta potties for this weekend. So that's all I have. Any questions?
About how long I know it starts at 9, the Saturday,
Correct.
and about how long does it go for? And I'm curious because I'm volunteering. And and all I was told was show up at 9.
Now it's gonna go to 3 o'clock.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Till it's over.
Well, I know.
So what's nice about our park or our
I'm fixing your
Chapman is that
event.
we can do 7 fields there. Everyone else only has 2 fields, so theirs really do go to 3 or 4 o'clock. But we have 7 fields, so we're expecting to be out of there by like noon.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Awesome.
and next year, what the directors plan on doing is just using Chapman Park every single Saturday, because we have so many fields, we can do so many fields. But Trevor and I have been out there chalking the fields for the last 2 days, so that might not happen. Any other questions?
I don't understand why.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Durbin. Sky high.
Mayor, council members, we are busy. We ended March with 48 events. We are breaking a record in April. As of right now, we have 53 events for April. So far in the 1.5 years we've been open, we've never been over 50 events in 1 month. We're very tired. In May, we're on schedule to have 30 events. And then for the 2023 year, as of today, we have 295 events scheduled. It's a lot, let me tell you. A couple of our larger events that happened already this month was the NRA banquet, and then the gun and craft show this last weekend. Both of them had a really good turnout for over those days that they were there. Some of our upcoming events, I was a little crazy this weekend. We have after prom for the Monte Vista High School at Sky High on Saturday night. And then we also have a quince this weekend. So if any of you get bored or you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you can go back to sleep, we'll be there until 5 a.m. Come join us. It'll be a party. And then some of our other events, we have the Monte Vista Co-op Safety Day, where we'll have about 400 to 500 kids on April 27th going through all the different safety stations that they put on for them. So it's a really good program. We have the Swoop of the Cranes Artist Appreciation Dinner on April 27th. We have our job fair on April 28th, and I've heard really good things about it. We have a lot of different
vendors showing up for that as well. We have our Lincoln Day dinner on April 29th, and then the first of 4 Spring in the Valley rodeos is April 29th. So a very, very busy couple of weeks for us to end up this month. So mark them on your calendars, come join us. We're always at Sky High. We'd love to see you. As we get more and more events registering, we're also getting a wider variety of events. We didn't think we could get more wider, but we are. I'm currently working on adding another country concert to this summer out at Sky High. So that's going to be really fun to get some different events and activities going on for people. And then we are working on, they started this week and it'll continue for probably another 2 weeks to get our big sign on the west side of the building that'll have our full logo and full name on it. So we're really excited to finally have some signage on the building. People know where they're going. And then the last thing is this is our last month for indoor walking. So if you want to get some indoor walking in, you have a couple more weeks left. Couple more days left. And then we'll have it back outside and we'll bring that back for next winter. Any questions?
How do you do it?
Highly caffeinated.
I thought you were always this type.
Lots of caffeine.
Has the time been changed?
Yes.
Thank you.
I need new software out there because I have to go out there and change each side separately. And you have to be at the right angle at the right distance to click the buttons. And so if you ever see me out there when I'm changing it, it's quite the funny show as I'm to get the right angle. So I did finally get it changed. Sorry, it's just a pain in the butt to do it.
I was asked about it one day. I couldn't figure out what they were talking about.
Yep. I did get it changed. Sorry for the delay.
Well, and the digital sign at the school hadn't been changed either. And I saw a lady Sunday and said, who do I call about changing the time? So electronic signs in general must be difficult.
I see Durbin's number on the electronic sign up often, so I would just, I would just call that number. Because that's, that's the number. Is that there?
Right now, there are going to be some things that you guys are going to have to consider, or we're going to have to sell you on. Right now, Stephanie has 2 full-time kind of operations people. A third part-time. He's actually kind of a floater between Public Works and taking care of a lot of the exterior stuff at Sky High. And then a full-time now office person. And so with this number of events, 2 things are going to happen. One, we had said that we wanted to keep the rental fees the same for the first 2 years. Next year, we're going to need to look at increasing rental because obviously the more demand, people are finding our rates to be relatively inexpensive and affordable. And so hopefully with the Downtown Colorado Inc. presentation that you'll be getting later in May, they're going to also be documenting that we need to increase our fees on this. Because at this pace and with that small of a staff, they're working their fannies off.
We're tired.
And yeah, but anytime I offer to help, she says, no, go away. So
I'm also very picky. If you ask any of my staff, I'm very picky of how I want things done.
But, it's a lot of physical work to be slinging those tables, putting up the chairs, moving the chairs so you can vacuum underneath them, get ready for the next event. Yesterday when I was out there, you had 3 events going just yesterday,
3
in
events in
between
4 rooms.
between 8 and 5. So, the success has just been overwhelmingly great, but we're going to have to look seriously at how we balance this out and make sure that we've got staff that's not going to be burned out, because their events after prom doesn't really get over until what time Saturday?
They end at 4 a.m. So by the time they get everything cleaned up and get out, we'll be there till 5.
Yeah. So just good growing pains.
Question I have for you is how many out of town people are calling to?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but we do get quite a few. A lot of them get recommended to come to Sky High if they're looking for a place to host a training, business meeting or an event. They start asking around, and Sky High is overwhelmingly the response that they're hearing. So we are getting those phone calls. I can definitely look into it and get that for my next report.
Okay.
Other questions?
You're doing a great job, Steph. Thank you. Lots of compliments, everybody, at all the events that I've seen or heard. Big compliment to you and your crew. Planning.
I'm back again. I'll talk slower this time. So another busy month for us. The Wildan contract was signed and returned, but we had to send it back. They digitally signed the contract, but they didn't have a notary. We needed it notarized, so they said they get that done tomorrow. I should have it back by the end of the business day tomorrow, and then we've been a contract with him for the water side only. That's what you guys approved last time. So that's done. The nuisance code, which I'm sure Gene will talk about as well, that is ready to go before you guys at next council meeting. We did finish going through all of that. The building code has to be done, which we just went through a lovely first reading. And the reason for that is it has to be effective by June 30th, which is why in the ordinance it says June 30th is the effective date, because that's when the entire valley will roll over. So those are both done. Those are pretty big projects as far as writing and thinking and spending a lot of time looking at what our code is and what it may need to be in the future. Because a lot of what we're trying to do is make sure that we're accommodating what is coming, not necessarily what we're experiencing right now. We have the RFP ready to release as soon as you guys say that I can spend the money. I say ready to release. I've got one or two small edits that are left. I need to get some questions answered, but for the most part, it's ready to go. I've got all the drawings and everything, specifications we need, with the exception of the concrete. So planning and zoning, we have a public hearing next week on Thursday for a special review use, and we're going to work on some zoning questions. We have a couple of plots of land inside the city limits that were not zoned because we didn't realize they were inside the city limits. Somebody at some point passed an ordinance and nobody's on it. So we're fixing that problem. So we'll put that before planning and zoning that will come to you guys. Same night, we're going to do our first work session with KLJ, which is our contractor consultant for rewriting the land use code for the IHOP grant that we got. So that'll be on Thursday night as well. The RFP for the Sonoran Institute grants that we received for water conservation and landscaping ordinance, that closes next week. So I'll have that for you guys earlier than like the day of, so that way you guys can actually review it. So we'll have that done for you guys probably the end of next month, probably by the time we get all the reviews done. Work on two smaller grants to support some of the other work we've got going on. Basically, they will just reduce our costs. They're not new projects. We're just looking to fund some of our stuff with the extra grants. So I got a couple of those rolling. May 24th, you guys will get an invite for a Brownfields 101 training. It will be at Sky High and it's there all day. By all means, you don't have to attend. But if you guys would like to come, what it is it's a free training put on by a consultant hired by CDPHE for how to get funding for brownfield mitigation such as asbestos, mold, and such. The great thing about this one is it has public-private partnerships specifically inside it. So we're going to invite at least 3 of our local business owners that have buildings we know that they would like to get abated, to include the theater, to see about getting those abated so we can look for funds. If CDPHE likes the project, they will also walk the properties, and then they will hopefully write us letters of support so that when we go for the grants that they suggest, we can hopefully pull some of those grants to reduce the cost. And the intent there is with the public-private partnerships, it's very complicated for a private person to apply for a grant. Public-private partnership, we should be able to help them move along so that we can get those grants and get some of these buildings that want to be updated or torn down actually done. So that's May 24th. We open that up to the public. I gave it to all of the land use administrators and building code inspectors. And then I think GJ gave it to the other city administrators today. So that way we can get a lot of input. I know Alamosa County was talking about coming and bringing some people with them. Other than that, this month I'm doing some park planning with Durbin and getting some ideas, some long-term projects under, like at least started rolling to do some updates, and then still modernizing the processes. I'm constantly scanning, downloading, and moving some of our documents from paper copies to something we can use. I also have electronic forms, which are they're about 90% ready to go. And once those go in, we'll be able to reduce some of our paper flow and also help the service to the customers. They can go online, they can do all their application process, review process, rejection and exception process. The only thing we still haven't figured out is the paying online for the permits. So they still have to come in and pay. But everything else they'll be able to do online. So that'll save them some time and energy. And it'll also make us more efficient. So that's kind of all the stuff that I've got going on. It should be a nice, easy move into the summer when I start to work on my next grant cycle. Questions?
I have a suggestion. So DJ, I'm sorry, I didn't think of this to remind you to bring it up, but in the last URA meeting, there was discussion to bring to council about what do they want done with the money that is collected from the properties Monte Vista has to sell that are under the URA.
Yes. So the URA currently owns 5, and it's really interesting the way that the city and the URA chose to do this. So the city managed all the funds, and all the money went through the city's capital in their general fund. But all the deeds are under the URA. So they're working right now on how they're going to sell these properties. Some of them are encumbered by deed restrictions. Some of them are not. We're looking at whether or not we can remove them or not. And what we would like some guidance from the council is what you guys would like to do with the funds. It's kind of complicated because the deeds are all under their name. But you guys, the city did all of the work on the backside, it seems like, from what I'm reading in the historical documents. So what I would like to see and what I suggest as the staff side of it is that they retain those funds for whatever they sell them for, and that becomes their seed money to go after more grants and to do more things. So instead of coming to the city and saying, hey, can I have, $100,000 out of the general fund to go after a grant, they can take these 5 properties, sell them for whatever they can, and then use that money as seed money to begin their next grant cycle and process in the big one. So that's my suggestion to what you guys, and I don't know what you guys can tell them to do, what they can't tell them to do, because they own the properties and technically they are a separate entity. But I think they would appreciate to know what your guys' thoughts and guidance would be. So that can probably be a side question for another day. I don't know if you guys want to have questions or talk about that.
Let's wait for another day.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, DJ. City Attorney.
So the thing about being almost last, kind of feel like what they used to do, the Romans, they didn't like the messenger, they just kill the messenger. Real quick, as quick as I can make it, the Muni Court, 35 cases, traffic, possession of drug paraphernalia, obstructing peace officer, harassment, shoplifting, zoning violations, nuisance violations. And one of the things that I've done for the judge is to complete a point count that really she didn't have before. She had the list of violations and you could kind of see where to find them, but you didn't have a point count out there and you didn't have the citation. So we went through all that and made it a little easier for her to, when a defendant pleads, tell them what the points are that they're pleading to, what the section is, right as a cheat sheet in front. So nuisance code revision. So we had 3 work sessions with the staff and we ended up with only 1 remaining issue, and what I had to do was go through the entire code and put together the definitions, consolidate the definitions. Put down 3 different sections of the code, one being the definitions, one being the declaration of the nuisances, and the last being the eradication of the nuisances, abatement, we call it, of the nuisances, where you could go to the code very easily as an officer and find out what the nuisance, what it was defined as, what the declaration was, and how you abate it. And the input I'm getting is that that's been made a lot easier. The only issue I think that we had that was being worked out, the burning. It's interesting that today is the day of the anniversary. I contacted the fire chief, and he said he really didn't have the personnel to man lawn burnings at all. So I talked to George, and kind of where we ended up with that was just to ban lawn burnings. And when it came to ditches, that's a little bit different because those things do need to be burned apparently. So leaving that as a permit issue and supervision issue to be approved by the city manager and or the code enforcement officer, where we came down on that one. So we finished, we said we were going to finish the nuisance ordinance. We finished the nuisance ordinance. It's been sent over to GG, and I think the only thing that you need to do is go down through it and let us know, it'll be set for first reading, next meeting, what your thoughts are, and any amendments we need to make to that. So that's done. The building code that DJ referenced there, what we had to do there is juggle 2 things as far as getting in this window of opportunity to get the 2018 code adopted, because we had to look at the charter provisions, and we had to look at also the statutory provisions. 2 notices required by the statutory provision of the notice of hearing, and the charter requires publications before and after. So I think we're able to get that just in under the wire. As you know, we've had a certain group look at this all over the valley. Hope Medina was heading that up, and they tried to distill out what parts were parts we didn't need. There's some things to look at there and make sure before we do the final reading that is what we want. But that the ordinance has to be published in full. And I think we're going to make it just under the window of opportunity, because when we finish up, I think we finish passing in on something like around the last of May, let's say May 18th is what I recollect, and it will be published probably around the 31st of May, and that'll bring us right into the deadline of June the 30th. So I think we're going to be in good shape there. We met with Mr. Richard yesterday, and we have an executive session coming on that. I think I'm bound to make public what the code says about what we're looking at here. As you recall, what you passed last time was concept to go with Mr. Richards' proposal. The charter says that the city council shall first hold a public hearing before selling, relinquishing, or otherwise disposing of any real property in section 32, and in section 2850, sale of city property, real estate. Any sale of real estate shall occur only after public hearing in accordance with the requirements of the city charter. An appraisal by a qualified real estate appraiser shall be obtained prior to the sale and transfer of any city real estate. No sale of city real estate shall be completed at less than its appraised value unless the city council determines by resolution that such real estate cannot be sold for its appraised value. City reserves the right to reject any bid or proposal to purchase real estate owned by the city. So that's the only thing I'm gonna cover there. I was in on the San Luis Valley COG meeting on the IGA on the export of water today, kind of wrapping that up. A lot of continued wordsmithing on that about the IGA. Once you're designating an area of state interest, you have to procure a permit. Transfers among members of the IGA do not count. In other words, intercity transfers, county, city, within the valley. And we were able to get the municipalities as part of the entire IGA. One of the things that Mr. Christensen, Jeff brought up, our water attorney, was this IGA includes 6 counties, but they didn't include Hinsdale, where we've got Rio Grande resident. So we got to think about that one too, and that was brought up today. I brought that up, and he chirped in on that some too. And I think what they're going to do is try to get that addressed in the future as an additional county to be included. Senate Bill 23-213. This is the strongest position. You've already taken a position on this and passed a resolution. It's the strongest position I've ever seen CML take on pending legislation. It's in committee right now. Currently, you passed a resolution opposing this, and just to encapsulate what I think the position is on this. That bill 23-213 represents the most sweeping attempt in recent Colorado history to remove local control and home rule authority from elected leaders, professional planning staff, and the people of Colorado. The bill dramatically expands state authority by imposing top-down zoning and land use standards on municipalities, and it puts those decisions into the hands of the developer, interests, and unelected third parties. Senate Bill 23-213 does not recognize that local governments are best suited to address the needs of their communities, and it flies in the face of local government efforts to solve the affordable housing crisis. So I'm sure that in addition to passing resolution, we want to probably be contacting the local elected representatives and getting opposition to that. That's the things I've been doing.
You've been busy too. Thank you.
Council, committee, city commission, and council reports. Mr. Lorenz. I was gonna give her a break. City manager.
Okay, I'll take a break.
Take your water and get.
Thank you. I'm almost out. Okay, just a few good things to share. Jean just covered Senate Bill 213. Another terrible bill that we're watching right now. And Lauren, you might be able to weigh in on this a little bit. It's called the Utility Regulations Bill. And this is a bill that targets Excel and only Excel, because it says utilities of over 500,000. And they're trying to address the natural gas increases last year, this past winter. The problem with this bill is that it doesn't address the cost of natural gas. And so it does all these other runaround things. Xcel Energy, their natural gas prices are passed through. They don't make a profit on their natural gas. And so they're kind of the victim of the commodities and where we're getting that natural gas and what the suppliers are charging us, then they're passing that on. And the other big deal about this that's very concerning is that it has, if Monte Vista, as an example, we needed to up the size of the natural gas pipe that we have in our community. That cost would be solely borne, thank you, on just the Monte Vista citizens. If we needed a new gas line into the San Luis Valley, only the San Luis Valley natural gas users would be paying those costs. Where, and today, just like in the electric industry, it's spread across the whole system, so everybody pays a little bit. So whether we're helping Denver grow or we're having to replace ours. For little communities, this is a big deal because we're not going to be able to pay for those infrastructure increases. This is the governor's attempt to push us to be all electric. It's more favorable to the electric side, and yet it doesn't address the affordability of natural gas. So they did ask me to testify today against it. I made the assumption that in the best interest of the city, you guys would be fine with that. I couldn't do it. We just had too many things going. It went to the finance committee. Senator Simpson is on the finance committee. I visited him with him briefly. He couldn't be in committee today, but this is the president of the Senate's bill. So I'm going to say it passed out of committee. And so it needs significant amendments made to it. And when it gets to the House, we'll need to put a full press on Representative Martinez to vote against this. So it's not in our best interest or our citizens. So that's the other piece on legislation right now. We had a very nice little retirement party today for Arnold D. Herrera. Arnold, it goes by Buck. He's been with the city a little over 25 years. And unfortunately, though, for him, he retired sooner than he wanted. He's had some serious health issues that he's been dealing with, but we all got a chance to wish him well. This Friday is the season opener, I'll say, of the Monte Vista Art Walk. So from 4 to 8, downtown Adams Street will be closed off. And so if you've got time, go through that and thank the Art Council for what they're doing in promoting and bringing business into downtown. We'll be scheduling a work session with you all on May the 25th. This is when DCI, Downtown Colorado Inc. will be coming and giving their draft presentation on the strategies that they came up with for the Sky High campus, as well as the viability of recruiting and trying to get a hotel in Monte Vista. So it'll be good to get that wrapped up. And we did have a good discussion with Mr. Richards regarding the Valley 3 Theater. So when we go into executive session, we can talk about some of those details. Any questions? All righty, thank you.
Thanks, Gigi. Okay, now we'll do council. Lorenz. Martha?
Wanted to just remind you that Cinco de Mayo is May 5th. They've had more than Cinco de Mayo Festival, Street Festival is May 5th. Thank you. And I have to say that because people are constantly saying, well, what date is it? Well, it's the 5th, because traditionally the optimistics have done it on the 5th, whether it went through the week or not. This year it falls on a Friday. They have about 10, they have broken their vendor record by about 10 or 12 or so. So there may be, I haven't seen the map, but I know there's been discussion of actually putting vendors down the middle of the street. Because they're just, I don't know if they're gonna be that full or not. I would like to add, I remember asking this a few meetings ago and I wanted to ask again, don't expect an answer tonight. Since it is going to be so big. And we do have problems with people parking there and leaving their cars there. I really want that not to be an issue. Because it's going to. My job with the Optimistics is to try to help between them and the city, make everything run smoothly. It's going to be very problematic with that many vendors and that many food trucks, live music. 3 live bands, maybe 4. DJ during the day. I mean, it's one car parked from that first block of Adams Street can throw the whole map off. And that means that setup in the morning is confusing. And now we have this car we have to work around. And I know that we're not actually responsible for whether it gets hurt or not, but really don't want to see somebody's car get hurt. So I'd like to make sure that those cars can be removed either voluntarily or by being towed. One or the other. Get them out of the way. Again, I'm just asking for that to be looked into and enforced or whatever has to happen. They are hiring security this year. Never had to do that before. They are hiring a security team this year. So that's comforting. I would reiterate Durbin's, please come and support cheerleaders, the soccer team Saturday morning. I think it's a fun way to spend a Saturday morning. Just go out to the park and have a good time and see some of your community members and just say hello. Other than that, I am just extremely proud of the engagement that I'm seeing pick up in town, the involvement, the various groups are doing anything. Sky High's blowing things out of the water. Parks and Rec is blowing things out of the water. There's just a lot of really good stuff happening. And I hope that everybody else can see it as clearly as I do. Monty Strong. I don't want to steal it from you because you say it the way you say it, but I say it. But I like it.
Thank you, Martha. Mr. Howard. Marla.
Well, I got 42 pages. No, just kidding. Just be safe out there. Pay attention to all the farm out in the county with all the wind, lovely wind blowing. Be careful with all your traffic. So be safe, take care, look after your neighbors, and Monty Strong. Yes, ma'am.
Before you hit go into executive session, I'm this disappointed that none of you recognize the new piece of art.
I did. I forgot to ask about it.
And we've got one out by the round table as well.
That right there is why the wind blows.
Oh.
Well, this was a generous donation by San Luis Valley Federal Bank.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
I was in an office that it was hung in one day, and I said, if you ever get rid of that picture, I'd like to have it for the city. And got a call a month or so ago saying, you still want that picture? And it's both pictures, and it's supposed to be one giant mural. And it came without a frame. And so I said, absolutely. So we got it picked up, and Lowell stained and put frames around both of them for us and give our room a little bit of pop.
That is very nice.
I did notice that as soon as I walked in tonight.
Is that what you just said?
You wouldn't believe all the good things we've gotten this year because of some dumpster diving.
She has saved us a lot of money.
Hey, I'm not complaining. Just wanted to be sure the record reflected what you said.
She is head of creative acquisitions.
There you go.
I like that.
We need a motion to go into executive session.
Tell her, baby.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Is there more discussion? Unita?
You gotta clear
Counselor Howard,
what it's for.
Counselor Locke.
I,
Wait, we gotta,
Wait,
you gotta state what
Yeah,
it's for.
sorry.
Oh, okay. It's been a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402 for executive session for Valley 3 Theater. Also, for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-4024E for the ARPA funds
And in consultation with our city attorney.
and with consultation with the city attorney.
For the specific purpose of receiving legal advice on specific questions, namely the issue on the Valley Theater,
Valley Theater and the
and probably the other one too.
ARPA funds.
Yes.
okay. Nita.
Counselor Howard,
Yes.
Counselor Locke,
I.
Counselor Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to go into executive session.
Thank you all for being here tonight.
No, I'm funny, but I'm not that.
Thanks, staff. Let's see,
Take a break.
yeah, let's take a break.
Take a break. I could go for a break.